Hi friends, welcome back to another video. Welcome to another wife chat. If you have not seen the previous one, I will have it linked in the description box below. But if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Linnell, and a couple of weeks ago my husband and we celebrated Valentine's Day, and it was such a special one, and it had me reflecting on all of the previous Valentine's Day, and I thought to myself, wow, we have come a long way, and I feel like I learned a few lessons from all of the Valentine's Days that we have been together. So I thought I would share. Caveat, disclaimer, it's not that we are experts, it's not that we have the perfect marriage, it's just that I have learned so much from other women online sharing their experiences, and I hope that this video, while sharing some of my experiences, can help you in your marriage. So a little bit of background before we get into the meat of the matter. My husband and we met in medical school in 2011. We both studied medicine in Cuba. We started dating about 9 years ago, and in July of this year we will be celebrating our 6th year anniversary, and we have 2 kids. So it has been a little bit of a journey, and I'm so proud of the life that we have built together. It is by no means perfect, but I couldn't imagine doing life with anybody else at my side. And so, like I said, a little bit of background. My husband is from Sierra Leone. He was born in Sierra Leone, but he spent most of his life in Gambia, and I am from St. Lucia. And like I said, we met in Cuba, and my husband's background is such that he's not big on celebrations. So birthdays, Christmas, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, they celebrate them, they wish you happy birthday, and they do a few extra special things. But in comparison to me, I am like on the other end of the spectrum. So for birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, I like to go all out. I like to be celebrated, and our love languages are very different. My love language, gift giving, is right up there. I love getting gifts for Mother's Day, birthday, gifts for no reason. I love gifts. My husband's love language is definitely not gift giving. I think it's actually probably one of the last ones. He does not really appreciate, it's not that he does not appreciate gifts, it's just that they're not on his radar. If it's his birthday, you don't get him a gift, it doesn't bother him. And so at the beginning of our marriage, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas was always a letdown for me. Not my birthday. He knew that my birthday was special, but the little holidays like Christmas and Valentine's Day and Mother's Day were usually a letdown for me, because he did not celebrate them in the way that I wanted him to celebrate them. And so that brings me to lesson number 1, which is communication. And one of the things that I had to learn how to do very early on in our marriage was communicate. And I remember exactly when it snapped into place, so to speak. I was listening to another woman, again, you know, other people sharing their experiences, and she was saying that men and women are different. Now, of course, I know that not all women are the same and not all men are the same, but generally we have like a specific stereotype. And she was saying that men do not care about some of the things that women care about, and vice versa. And the example she gave, I could perfectly relate to it. And she said that when her husband walks into the house, if the house by her standard is messy, the first thing that she thinks about is, oh my gosh, I need to clean up, I need to vacuum, I need to wash the dishes. Meanwhile, her husband comes in and kicks off his shoes and lies down on the couch or something. And that would annoy her, because in her mind she's like, why can't he see that there are things to be done? But conversely, whenever she walked into the car, she didn't notice whether it had gas or not. She didn't notice whether the tires were flat, or she did not know when it needed maintenance, because those things were just not on her radar. And the reason why her story resonated with me so much was because I'm exactly like that. I don't do anything for car maintenance. So insurance, gas, maintenance, I don't do anything, and I don't even notice. Like, it has to be really bad for me to notice. Sometimes I don't even notice when the car needs gas. But my husband does. He notices all of those tiny sounds that I can never hear. He knows when we're supposed to do maintenance and all of that kind of thing. Whereas when I come into the house, the first thing I see is a list of things that needs to be done. The dishes needs to be washed, and we need to vacuum or mop or whatever the case is. And for him, the house is clean enough, you know. And it made me realize that some of the things that are important to me are not as high of a priority scale for him, and vice versa. But the important thing is that if you do not communicate, then they will never know. And so I think women, I speak for a lot of people that have shared their experiences with me. Obviously not everybody's the same, but from what I have gathered from my own personal experience, because I'm guilty of doing this too, and from other women, is that there's this idea that a man is supposed to know what to do, and if he's not doing it, then he's not a good enough husband or a good enough boyfriend. And so if the dishes need to be washed and he does not see the dishes to be washed, then he's not a good enough husband. Or if, you know, he does not get you the specific gift that you wanted for your birthday, then he's not a good enough husband. And yes, I do think that men need to take the initiative, and they do need to show that, you know, that they love you without being told. But sometimes things come down to preference or your background, like how you were raised. So my husband, for example, they have a couple of birthdays in November, and so having like a celebration for each child in November, even their parents, I think even his parents are born in November, they had like 4, maybe 5 birthdays in November. And so having like a celebration every birthday was just not a thing. He did not grow up that way. But I grew up where my mom made my birthday very special for us, and to this day my birthday is a very special day to me. And you know, because of differences in background, in love languages, in the way that you grew up, in personalities, in your past, you know, some things just need to be communicated. And I think that as women, we tend not to communicate these things because that lack of spontaneity is considered a lack of romance, or a lack of like it's not romantic enough, it's not spontaneous enough if he did not think about it on its own. But what is happening when we do not communicate what exactly that we want is unmet expectations, which can lead to a lot of bitterness in the marriage, resentment, anger, just building up until, you know, you reach a point where you just explode. And so one of the lessons that I learned going through multiple Valentine's Day, where I was quite frankly disappointed in what my husband did, was to communicate. And I communicated with him and I said, hey, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas Day, my birthday are important to me, and I want to feel celebrated during those times. And for Valentine's Day, we had a really nice time. We did a couples pedicure, we went for lunch, he got me quite a few gifts. I sent him some of the things that I wanted, and he chose out of what I sent him what he wanted to get me. He wrote me a nice little letter. He gave me some clues to figure out where the gifts were. It was really nice. But the first, second, maybe even third Valentine's Day was not like that. Far from it. Even Mother's Day was not. I remember my very first Mother's Day. He doesn't know this, but I cried because I did not feel celebrated enough. But that was early on in our marriage, and I did not communicate that those things were important to me. And it's one of the things that if I had to speak to somebody about marriage, I would tell them that men cannot read your mind. You need to tell them what you want. Now, I do think it takes a certain level of interest, a certain level of maturity for the man to actually respond to what you've communicated. But at the end of the day, there's zero chance that he can do what you want him to do if he doesn't even know that you want him to do it. And him doing something because you asked, it should not take away from how much it means to you. So for example, when my second daughter was born, I really wanted my husband to get me flowers. He's not the type of person to think of that spontaneously, but I told him that. I think I probably told him a couple of months before, but he remembered. And on the day that I delivered probably about 5 in the morning or something. Best believe that when he came back to the hospital at 9 o'clock, he had a bouquet of flowers for me because I had requested it. And the fact that I requested them and he didn't think of it on his own did not take away from how I felt when I saw them, when I smelled them, and just having them by my bedside table. It reminded reminded me that he cared enough to remember that I wanted them, that he loved me enough to go look for them, even though it wasn't something significant. And I really think that as women, we need to be able to push back on the idea that men are supposed to read our minds and just, you know all of the crazy things that goes on in our heads. Because let's be real, we be wanting some things that they would probably never figure out on their own. And just reflecting on how different this Valentine's Day was from all of the first couple of ones that we had together, just reminded me that people grow, that your partner, they grow, and that is point number 2. And I wanted to remind some women, especially if you are newlywed, you're a first year in, and you kind of feel disappointed because maybe things are not exactly how you had hoped for, or maybe you had this idealistic idea of marriage and it's just not where it is after a couple of years. I just wanted to remind you that nobody's perfect. Your partner is not perfect, you are not perfect, and I would highly encourage you to give them space to grow. Because when we enter into a relationship, we grow in a lot of ways. We become more mature. Well, we're supposed to. It doesn't happen for everybody, but we're supposed to become more mature. We're supposed to become more selfless. We learn our partners more and what it is that they like, what is it that they don't like. And so we need to be able to give our partners space to grow. And I don't think there's much I can say, but give grace. God gives us grace. We make mistakes. Sometimes we make the same mistakes over and over again, but God gives us grace, and we need to extend that grace unto our partner, and remember that they need space to grow as well. And lastly, one of the last things that I reflected on was the power of prayer. And this should come as no surprise. I am a Bible believing Christian, and I believe so much in the power of prayer. And one of my top recommendations for women, Christian women in a marriage, whether it's good, whether it's medium, whether it's mediocre, is to go on your knees and pray. Because God cares about our marriage. Our marriage is supposed to reflect the union between Christ and the church, and he cares about that relationship. He cares about that relationship more than you do, and he wants to see you guys thrive, and he wants you to bring up all of the issues that you have in your relationship to him, because he's capable not just of changing your partner but also changing you. Because sometimes when we're complaining about certain things, sometimes it's not the other person in the wrong, sometimes it's our heart that needs to be changed. But I remember praying that my husband would be a little more romantic, and he's not by nature a very romantic person. And I remember praying about it, and I remembered feeling very silly for praying about something like that, because I felt like in the grand scheme of things it didn't matter much, like, so what if my husband is not romantic, And I prayed about it, and I feel like the last couple of birthdays, the last couple of Christmases and Valentine's Day has really showed me how much he has grown in that area. And I'm very appreciative of him for pushing himself to grow in that area. And I'm also very appreciative of God hearing that seemingly unimportant prayer and making those changes in my husband's life. And so those are the 3 things that I wanted to share with you that I was pondering on Valentine's Day, because it really was a very sweet one. And I was thinking about, the first 1 or 2 maybe. And it just made me realize that, most of the time marriages get sweeter with time, because you grow, your partner grows, and the relationship, the bond deepens. And I don't mean to sound frivolous, talking about Valentine's Day in a marriage, is one of the least important things, but those are the things that I find make a difference. Having in the busyness of life and balancing finances and all of the big things in marriage, you do need some of those frivolous things to make the ride a little more smoother. And I feel like you know, those things are like a bank. It's like deposits into the bank. So when you have those little things, date nights and cool conversations, or maybe for you, and you know what, maybe for you it's not even Valentine's Day, maybe you yourself, you don't care about Valentine's Day, maybe it's something else. But when you make additions into your marriage, you make deposits into your marriage in those little areas, they add up. And then when you go through your tough times, you're kind of supported by this base that you've already built up for yourself. So that is my little encouragement. I really hope it was a blessing to any of you listening. Don't forget, communicate, give grace, and pray. You know, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.